the recovery process regionally, it's important for us to take a rights-based approach. And even as that sounds theoretical in general, when you operate, for example, from a position of asking how are child rights going to be protected, or how are they going to be increasingly violated during this time, then the economic and social policies that you're choosing are going to take that into account. Similarly, with the issue of women's rights, if you're asking yourself, how are our various measures either helping to advance women's rights at this time or setting back the struggle for gender justice, then you're going to make particular decisions. And so I think governments around the region need to not just pick and choose things that seem to work for women, like children's grants or food cards, and not pick and choose things that seem to work for children, but come to the recovery from a rights-based approach that looks at the issues that have been characterizing the lives of women and children and marginalized groups, and include a rights-based approach that includes consideration of marginalized and vulnerable groups in their approach. Now, some examples are, when we think about recovery, we think about the economy, but we're not necessarily thinking about the fact that when we restart the economy, we are restarting an economy that was already vastly unequal. We're talking about an economy in which women were the lowest paid workers in the economy. They predominated in low wage, non-unionized, informal, insecure jobs. We're talking about an economy in which men were earning sometimes twice as much as women on average, sometimes $100,000 more than women on average, despite the fact that women have been the majority of tertiary education graduates over the last 2 decades. We've been talking about an economy that relies on a care economy, that relies on care being performed by women unequally. And so our assumptions about the economy cannot be the ones that we see as a basis for recovery. We have to look at the inequalities that currently exist and take that into account. I would argue, for example, and the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at the University of West Indies St. Augustine campus has been arguing for gender-responsive budgeting approach now for at least 3 years. And in arguing for a gender-responsive budgeting approach, we've said, listen, every economic choice, every economic policy that we make has an implication differently for women or for men. If we choose to stimulate the economy by investing in construction, which is what many of our governments are going to do because they're being pressed to do so by the construction sector, by the manufacturing sector, and so on. We have to look at the fact that the workers in those sectors may be predominantly male, and therefore a stimulus package is going to be putting money directly in the hands of male workers, possibly creating greater economic dependency on behalf of women, and therefore possibly creating greater vulnerability to violence. So even what appears to be a neutral policy, economic policy, has gendered implications. And those are the ways that we want us to think about recovery. We don't want us to think about it as neutral. We want us to understand that the old economy was vastly unequal, and we want to see this as an opportunity to take a rights-based approach.